A lot has been said about the Israel high-tech industry and the success story that it has become. However, an area that is somewhat less discussed, at least in the mainstream media, is the level of Arab participation in the Israeli high-tech industry. One interesting and quite significant project that has made it its mission to change that reality is a project by the name of Maantech, and we're here with Gai Hetzroni, who heads this project and who's going to tell us more about it. Hi, Guy.
Hi.
Firstly, just for the sake of general knowledge and for our viewers to understand, can you please explain what is Maantech?
Sure. First of all, Ma'an in Arabic is together, and tech is for high tech.
Yeah.
So together in the high tech, that's the idea. What we found out when we looked at the Israeli high tech around 2010 was that in the Israeli high tech, the Arabs are not taking part of.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I think that less than 0.5% of the engineers in the high tech were Arabs. And we wanted to change this situation and to do something about it.
Sorry to interrupt. At the time when there was less than 0.5%, was there an imbalance in terms of the numbers of Arabs who had the right training to be able to take part in the high tech industry and therefore make that percentage higher? In other words, was the 0.5% not representative of the workforce, the Arab workforce, which could have made that percent higher?
Yeah, this is a very good question. So, one piece of information which is important to understand the background is that the Arabs in Israel are 20% of the population. Mm-hmm. So you would assume that there will be some correlation between the number of employees and the industry. So 0.5% is nothing close to 20%. So, and we know that the Arabs are talented as well as everybody else.
Sure.
And there is something which is missing in the equation, and we were trying to find a way to resolve that. And there are two main reasons I would say for trying to find a solution to this. So why call it a problem in the first place? So one thing is about the Arab population in general. If they are not part of the high tech, which is a very wealthy industry, they are not taking part of the game, and they are not have a good chance to take part of this wealthy industry. This is one thing. The other thing is that the industry itself is always in a search for new talent and new people, and it can grow as many as talented people it can find, and it will shrink if you don't find enough people.
Right.
And Israeli industry, the high-tech industry, always search for people outside of the country.
It's always in deficit. It's always looking for more. Yeah.
So we have huge part of the population which is untapped yet.
Yeah.
And this is what we were trying to resolve. So these two main things.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain why you thought it was so important? Apart from the fact that it was, there was a population that was misrepresented percentage-wise, but if we look at the implications, perhaps the social implications, etc., in that respect, why do you think that was so important to integrate more Arabs into the Israeli high-tech?
So as I mentioned, the high-tech industry is very wealthy. Mm-hmm. And it gives a good chance for high salary and to be part of the wealthy or the wealth of the economy in Israel. And the Arabs and the level of income in the Arab community is not as high as in the Jewish community. They are more poor. I don't have the exact numbers, mm-hmm. but they are more poor than the general population. Right. They have less opportunities to take part of the industry and of the total income in Israel. And by that, it have an impact on me and on
Right.
everybody else, because it's not only is that the fact that they are poorer than us, I mean the Jews in Israel, it's also that they don't pay enough taxes because they don't earn enough money. So actually they live on my taxes, which is not a healthy situation,
Right.
and not a very good situation to be in as a community.
Sure.
So it has impacts on the community in general, and I would say the level of feeling of togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the major impact on the society in Israel.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I think that's very important for, for social welfare. The general feeling, the level of tension, I think, is greatly reduced, as you say, when you kind of even out the differences by such a project.
Absolutely.
How successful has it actually been since you started?
It has been successful. We announced Maantech at the beginning of 2011, and so this is actually we just finished the fourth year and we start the fifth year.
Yeah.
And by that time, the number of Arab engineers in the high-tech industry were more than double.
Wow.
Only in the companies that we cover, and I'll touch this in a minute, more than 1,000 Arab engineers were hired, which is more than we had in the first place. When we started, the absolute number was about 850 engineers in the industry. So more than double in the time, and we start to see actually more Arab students studying technology in the universities as a result of what we're doing.
Because they realized that this was going on and they had better opportunities.
Yes.
That's interesting.
One thing that I didn't mention in the numbers that I mentioned earlier was that there is a problem when a young Arab is going to study technology in the universities. There is a very, very poor chance that they will find a job in what they learn.
Expand on that. Why?
And the numbers are just astonishing. Like only 1.5% of the graduates from high studies of technology do find a job in the area that they study. Like a young person who study computer science at the Technion has only less than 2% chance to find a job in computer science.
Although he's a Technion graduate, which is a very, very good school, and had he not been Arab, I would assume he would have been grabbed by one of the. Can you?
And to continue on that, 50% are going to teach eventually, become teachers.
Right.
And the rest, I don't know what they're doing actually. They just wasted their time in the studies.
Let's keep it real and honest. Why do you think that is? Why are only 1.5% hired, even though they have the right qualifications, they go to the best schools, they get their diplomas? Let's just be honest. Why is that? Is it just a discrimination, racism? What is it?
I think it's neither in general. I think what happened is that the Israeli high-tech industry were built, and at a certain point we realized that most of the people, almost everybody, are Jews, are Jews, and the Arabs were kept out, and I don't have any idea how to explain that. But once they are out, it's very hard to go in.
Right.
Because it is very difficult to integrate people you don't know, that you don't understand. And you can say a lot about, well, they are Arab, maybe there is a discrimination and racism and so on and so forth. And maybe this is part of it. I'm not saying in general that it doesn't exist. It probably exists somewhere. Yeah. But I can tell you that 20 years ago, we had the exact same issue with the immigration from Russia.
Right.
Tons of people were knocking on the doors of the high tech and trying to find jobs. And I remember the argument at the corridors whether we should hire a person from Russia because he's speaking Russian, we will not understand them, and they are coming from a communist country, they are not loyal to their employer, and so on and so forth. So in general,
That's amazing.
and this is, I think, this is a universal thing, phenomena. People are afraid from people that they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to accept them, how to live with them. So we still don't know the Arabs yet, and the problem is in both directions, because we, the industry, do not know the Arabs yet, so we do not invite them easily in.
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing, they don't know us, so they are not easily coming in. And well, based on the fact that I just told you, very little number of Arabs are going to study technology because there are not enough role models. They will not find a job, and sometimes they don't want to be teachers, so they don't go to study. So there is a gap today between the two, and
Right.
it exists on both sides, and this is something that Maantech is trying to bridge.
So just to pick up on the fact that there's so many Arab graduates with in the scientific areas which could benefit the high-tech industry, but so little of them actually end up being employed in this industry. Why do we not have Arab startups? Like instead of approaching Israeli companies to hire them, why isn't it the case where there's so many Arab engineers that can get together and start their own startups? Why isn't Mantic? Maybe it is, I don't know, maybe you tell me, but how come, especially in the Israeli environment where they can see what the Israeli startups are doing, and they can, it's quite accessible to try and emulate that, to try and copy that. Why isn't that happening within, by the Arab engineers starting their own startups and taking it from there?
So mainly it's a cultural thing. In order to be a startupist, in order to start your own startup, you have to be able to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something which is culturally is against the Arab culture.
Right.
It's very hard for them to accept failure. Like failure is for life, and this is something which is very hard to recover from. While in the Israeli Jewish culture, this is something which is acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can fail 10 times and then in the 11th time you will succeed, and this is great.
Yeah.
People will give you the opportunity again and again.
Yeah.
If you do that in the Arab world, this is very tough. And this is a kind of a cultural gap that they had to bridge. And I can tell you that we thought of invest also in this for the Arab community back in 2010. And we start to learn this subject and to do some field research. And what we learned is that there are no Arab startupists in the technology area. So there was nothing to invest in. A lot has been changed since.
Right.
I can tell you that like 2 years ago, there was the first ever startup weekend in Nazareth aimed for Arabs. And this was the first. Now they had a lot of hackathons already since, and they have Mobile Monday every month, and
Right.
so on and so forth. The culture is changing, and they do understand the opportunity. And I can proudly say that we also made an investment and enabled the first ever accelerator for Arab entrepreneurs in Nazareth last year,
Right.
Tech. This was the name of the accelerator. And now today there are, as far as I know, 3 active accelerator acting today in Nazareth.
So is it fair to assume that because of the Israeli influence or example which is followed, that the Arabs in Israel are more of a startup have more of a startup nature than the Arabs in countries around Israel, like the neighboring Arab countries, because of this rubbing shoulders with the Israeli high-tech industry and learning from that. and perhaps a bit of a change of culture as a result of this influence. Is it fair to say that there is more startup activity going on amongst Israeli Arabs than there is amongst Arabs around Israel in other countries?
Yes, absolutely. It's not only the examples that the Jews are providing. It's more than that. The ecosystem is mature here in Israel for startups, and there are a lot of opportunities that are open for Arabs, and there is a lot of support that they can have. That beside of seeing role models but they can easily have mentors and get some guidance from local people. So absolutely, the atmosphere is more helpful here. But you see startups also in other countries, like in Jordan you see accelerators and some other countries as well. But absolutely, they do have opportunities here.
Right. How about governmental support for this project, or even the lack of support? I don't know. Is the government involved in any way? Is anybody opposing this? Does anybody think it's a bad idea?
Well, I'll start at the end of your question. No, nobody thinks that this is a bad idea.
I'm glad to hear that.
And I can tell you that you could hear in the last government that just finished these days, you heard, and it was and there is no escape from that. This was a right-wing kind of government. You heard from Bennett, you heard from Lapid, and you heard from the treasury people that it is important, and we have to do something in order to integrate the Arabs in the industry in general. And the hitech is the kind of an engine that the entire industry follows. So this is very important, and more than that, it's not just important stuff. It's essential in order to maintain the economical stability in Israel.
So there's overall support across the board, regardless of political persuasion. Everybody thinks it's a good idea. Everyone supports it.
Yes,
and
that's the situation. And let me tell you a little bit about how Mantic is working and what we're trying to do. So Maantech is aiming at integrating the Israeli Arab engineers into the high-tech industry. It is not about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
It is about integrating them. Like, as I said, at the very beginning, I want to see them at the restaurant in Herzliya Pituach, as well as I see all the Jews over there. I want them to eat with me and to work with me. And how do you do that? And there are some initiatives here and there that existed long before Maantech. They were trying to make a change. And what we were trying to do is to create a kind of a paradigm shift in the industry and also among the Arabs themselves. So what we did, we created a coalition of companies that committed to President Peres, who is a kind of the godfather of Maantech initiative, and it is very important to mention that.
Right.
And they made a commitment to him, like, we want to integrate Arabs, and we want to hire Arabs, and we will make an effort to hire Arabs. So if you hear this kind of commitment from Microsoft, from Cisco, from Intel, well, you think that maybe this is an idea to look at, because they are the biggest and the greatest and the most successful ones. And I'm proud to say that today we have in the coalition 40-something companies, like 46 today, but we are growing, and we have there, I mentioned a few, and we have also Google and HP and Amdocs and more companies want to be part of this change. And they made this commitment, and we provide a toolkit for them to help them integrating the Arabs in. Yeah. And there are a lot of problems in doing that, and I will touch that in a minute. Okay. And the other side is the community itself, because, and we mentioned that at the beginning, because there is not enough, or there is not enough role models, Arab role models working in this industry. You don't see many young people, young Arabs, going to study technology. So the whole pipeline is broken. Yeah. And when a guy or a woman is finishing their study at the university or at the college, they don't have a clue how to look for a job, how the industry looks like. So they know computer science or electrical engineering, but they don't know what's the major difference between Google and Microsoft, for instance. And this is a problem, because if you don't know the industry, you don't know how to look for a job.
Yeah.
So they make all the mistake in the book, in the way, so they fail. And so we have to grow them into the industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we provide toolkits for the industry and for the candidates in order to bridge this gap, believing that the pipeline will grow. People will see more people working in the industry, so they will follow suit and they will go to study because there is an opportunity there. Today I hear from a lot of students in the Technion, for instance, that their parents are coming to them, and I'm talking about those who have very good grades, like above 85, and in computer science, which is something that every Jewish mother will be happy for the son to study in. But the Arab mother is saying to them, well, you're very good, or you're very talented. Why are you studying this and not to become a doctor, a physician? Because this is something they do understand, and this is something that there is an opportunity for Arabs here in Israel, which is really sad. We want to change that. Mm-hmm. So we are aiming at having what we call a critical mass of employees in the industry, and at that point they will not need us anymore, because a friend bring his friend, and the industry will know enough the Arabs. They will not be afraid from those people anymore. So this is what we're trying to do in Maantech. The problem, I would say, the major problem I find in the industry itself, in the high-tech companies, is that the Arabs are very close to the Jews here in Israel. We are too much alike, so we don't really understand the difference. And I find a lot of people in the industry with very goodwill, and they want to hire Arabs, and they claim two things in general. One is that we don't get enough Arab candidates. So we touch that, we understand why this happens. And then they are saying, and this is very interesting, well, those people we did see are not as good as the Jews. And so let's talk about this for a minute. And this is the major issue. Because if you are going to make an interview for a person from China, for instance, you know that he knows Chinese and you know Hebrew. And you are speaking in English, which is not mother tongue for neither of you. So you understand and you come prepared to that difference, to this interview. But if you are going to interview an Arab person who speaks Hebrew very well, right? We see them everywhere and they speak Hebrew. So you don't really understand that there is a difference. So here is the thing.
So the expectation is off. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So here is the thing. The Arab guy, or a typical Arab guy, for him or for her, the language, the Hebrew language, is kind of the third language. It's not the mother tongue. The mother tongue is spoken Arabic. Mm-hmm. And the second language is written Arabic, which is a bit different. Right. And then only comes the Hebrew. So you start interviewing the person, and you don't understand the difference, and you're asking a question. So we take them, a fraction of a second to understand, more than to typical Jewish guy, to understand the question, start answering, and
and it's interpreted as hesitation.
It's kind of, you feel that they are slower than the Jews that you interviewed, so they are weaker. And this is just one example. There are the body language, which is different, the kind of, the Jewish Israeli culture is very flat. We don't have hierarchies. Mm-hmm. And the Arabs are not like that. They do respect, if you are interviewing them, you're probably higher in the hierarchy. So they do have a lot of respect to you. So if and many times we do that as Jews, when we interview, we say some nonsense and to see if the person we interview like understand that this is nonsense, and the typical Jewish person will say, "Oh, this is nonsense." The Arab would never say that.
Yeah.
And if they don't,
It's
then
impolite,
they fail because
yeah.
it's impolite.
Yeah.
And probably you know something that I need to understand better. What I probably didn't understand you well, so I will be quiet. So I interpret that I'm the interviewer, the Jewish interviewer. I interpret that as a weakness,
Sure.
which is not.
Yeah.
So people think we are very much alike, and they don't want or don't really open and yet to learn the differences and to the fact that there is a diversity which they have to understand before they're trying to bring the Arabs to the industry. And this is I think that this is the major reason why Arabs do fail in the interviews, because if you will talk to the majority, well, not everybody, you talk to the majority of the engineers in Israel, the Jewish ones, they will tell you that they don't care. They want to hire the best people.
Sure.
They don't care if they're speaking Arabic or Hebrew or Russian or Chinese or what the color of the skin
outsource it to
is.
India and places like that. So
Exactly.
they do that.
They don't care. So, but they didn't find a very good Arab engineer. That's the problem, because they don't understand.
I think your point about what happens during an interview is, I think that's very interesting. I think it's fascinating because, I mean, I've seen a study which claims that your success in an interview is determined by almost 99% your body language and 1% what you say. In other words, if you're confident enough on your seat and your body language says I'm really confident, I know what I'm talking about, etc., then you've got so much more chance of being hired than somebody whose body language is, I'm probably not good enough, which is, I can imagine this is probably what happens almost every single time somebody who comes from the Arab culture sits in an interview, and this goes on. So I think that's a very important point. One thing that I thought about when I was researching prior to our meeting, I was just thinking of how Israel has a very unique quality in its hands, and that is its high-tech industry, its scientific achievements. It's well renowned for that, and I think Israel could use that in more than just within its high-tech industry and tangible achievements in there. And I'll explain what I'm talking about. Imagine a case where Israel would build an engineering school of excellence, like the Technion, for example, but one that was open to all nationalities. Whether Israel has diplomatic relations with these countries or not, anybody who feels he's up for the challenge, who's good enough, who's got the right skills, could apply to study in this school. And Israel will allow anybody from anywhere in the world to study in this school for engineering excellence. It could be Arabs from Syria, from Iraq, Libya, anywhere. I think that is what I'm trying to say is that this is a use of Israel's high-tech reputation in a way which is intangible. In other words, it's kind of a diplomatic or I don't know what the right word for it is, but it's to build a school of excellence open to all nationalities in order to normalize Israel's relation with these countries and to show that it's not racist, that it's for the pursuit of technology and scientific research, etc. Do you think that a project like this could work? Do you think it could ever come up, or what do you think about it? I think is my question.
Well, this is a very nice idea, and I think you'll be surprised. I think it exists already.
What's
because I don't think that Israel do prevent anyone. Well, I might be mistaken or might Might be some countries which are not in the list, but I think that in general, Israel would allow, I might be mistaken, but I think Israel would allow anyone from any nation to come to study here. Once they are not related to, terror or stuff.
Is that true? That means can somebody from, I don't know, Iran, Libya, Iraq, can they?
I think on the paper they can in general.
Really?
I think I'm not sure, but I think. But we all know that it is very difficult for people coming from those countries, or even if the long forgotten history coming from those countries, it's very hard for them to go in and out from Israel. This is a very, very tough thing in Israel, and this is a well-known problem that we are having. So if you overcome this problem,
well, obviously,
we can do that.
I'm assuming that problem will have to be addressed. So if that problem would have been addressed, then obviously the way I imagine it is that this could be a great boost, not just for Israeli high tech and scientific research, etc., but also for Israel's position in the world and where it wants to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the problem is always, and this is the major problem that caused that in the beginning is security.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we will overcome this problem, yeah, everything is open. I don't think that any university will say no for a candidate coming from Iran or Syria or Afghanistan or anywhere else.
And they can then become our biggest ambassadors afterwards.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, let's hope for that kind of future. Guy, thanks very much for your time. It's been fascinating. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you.